this Mishnah, it's split up in the Mishnayos, just in the Gemara that puts two. So there's a Haman base at the bottom here. So if you have two people giving edus, and one of them finds to be his apostle, now Tosis will give this svara later that there's only one aid left. Since there's only one aid left, so therefore the edus is both. You need two aid. So there's a hekesh in the pasuk. So just like when you have two adim, so the hekesh between two adim and three adim. So just like this two adim, if one of them is Karov pasul, the whole edus is bottle. Af shaloisha, when you have three adim, nimsa echem and Karov pasul edus and besela. So that's the hekesh in the pasuk. So even though you with the three, when you get rid of one, you have good edus there, but since there's a hekesh to two, so therefore even with three, then you mevatel it. Menayin afilam meya tamalom adim. So how do we know that cat even as big as 100? It says adim, and adim comes to say all adim. Any cast of adim will be like this. Mishnah continues. Amar Rabbi Yossi. So where are we referring to? So where the adim they're all mevatel. If you have one person in the cat is Karov apostle, everyone goes. Bedine nefashos. So therefore, this whole din is only, according to Rabbi Yossi, the whole din of nimsa ech and Karov apostle is only in the dinim of nefashos. But mamonos, you have the rest is fine. Rabbi Omer echadim mamonos echadim nefashos. It's all the same. The aimatai, and when does this work? Bisman shehatoru behen. That the Rebbe says that the Adim have to give hasra. Now the simple way to understand what Rebbe is saying here, and we'll see this later, is that there's two stages to the Adus. There's two parts to the Adus. You have the time of when the Adus is seeing, when the Adus sees, the Adus sees what's happening, the Shas Maisa, there's Adus, and then you have Adus in Beis Din. You have Adus when they come to Beis Din, they give the Haggadahs. You have like the Shas Maisa, and then they have the Shas Haggadah. So here Rebbe is really saying here that Bisman Shehator with him that again there's no din that the Adim have to give the Hasra. Anyone can give the Hasra. What Rebbe's saying here is that if the Adim give Hasra, then for sure they're making themselves Adim at the time. Because when they say Hasra, so why are you giving Hasra? It's because you must be there to be giving the you want to be an aid. Aval Bisman Shelo Hasru Behen, but if they didn't give Hasra, so then, again, this mission is a bit strange. What are you going to do? Two brothers see somebody kill someone. Okay, so he goes free because there's no edus. What's the problem? Just the wording of the mission doesn't really say anything here. Okay, that's fine. That's a din. Aval, when they don't give hasra, what are you going to do for two achim? That's so nefesh. What are you going to do? Therefore, we have to change the din. I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What if someone really likes pig and pig's treif? What are you going to do with someone who really likes pig? It's no din here. So what's going on here? But when they didn't give hasra, since at the time of Re'iyah they didn't make themselves an aid, so then they're not an aid. Because if you don't say so then if two brothers see somebody killing someone, so then he gets off. So this end of the Mishnah is a bit funky. Because really you got to massage the words about it. I mean, again, just these words. Maya says Shnei yeah. What are you going to do? Well, guess he gets off free. I mean, this isn't halacha. This is a story. Maya, what are you going to do for these people? So you got to do some work on these things. The Pash Pashas is that when they didn't give hasra, so then they don't become Adim. And they can't pasul, because if you don't say that, then two brothers at sea, there's no way that they can that this guy gets off. But rather, what you do with two brothers at sea, they either one of them gives hasra and the other doesn't, or none of them gives hasra if there's other Adim there. So if the maklokas, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi, so for the first maklokas is bedin nefashos or Mammon. That Rabbi Yossi says only B'din and Fashas can you pasul everyone else, but Din and Mammon just there's no problem. And for Rabbi, even though it's both, he says yes, it's Din and Mammon. It's not like Rabbi Yossi. Also, they have to give Hasra. They have to give have to start off at the beginning as well. Tois is here. He starts off with Rashi saying, "The beginning mamonos nami ketiv al pishnayim or al pishloisha." Benakish gimel the base. So Tois has a problem. Now, why don't we say this by dinei mamonos as well? They also have the hekesh. Therefore, Ri has a perush. The beginning of Fosha Shaykh Shapir Lemelef Mishnayim to Edusa and Betala. So for sure by Edin Nefashas, you're going to learn from two, but Mamonis we don't learn from two. The Mashnayim, when you find one of the Hem Karov pasul, the Edus and the Pesele Legamri, you have to have this word Legamri. So when you have two people giving Edus, A killed B, and one of them is Karov pasul, so therefore the whole Edus is out. So therefore the Edus does nothing, therefore with three also it does klum. When they betel megamri, but betin mamonos shnayim nami. When you find one of them karva pasul, the second is not bottle legamri. Why the chayv lo shavua? When you only have one aid with the dinei mamon, therefore it's you still have the aid echod, which you can mechayv shavua. Therefore three nami nimsa echad mekarva pasul to sky ma'edus b'shar edim. That's the pirush here of Rabbi Yosef of the difference between between Nefashos and Mamonos. Now the Gemara says, Amar Rava, V'hu she'idu kulam b'toch kedei dibur. So Rava here is saying, Hasam to come on Nisan Meya Krishna. Where do we say that 100 is like 2? Is where everyone does it toch kedei dibur. So therefore, that they have to have, everyone basically has to come to Beis Din and give their Eidus and Beis Din at the same time. If they don't give their Eidus and Beis Din at the same time, they're not called one cat. So everybody sees it at one time, but if they don't come to Beis Din and give Eidus at one time, they're not called one kat. So the Gemara just continues. Amalei Ravachmi Difli Ravina Michdi Tochdei Dibur Hechidam. What is this Tochdei Dibur? So Kadesh says Tamed Larav Meya Tuva Have Amalei Kolchad V'Chad B'Tochdei Dibur Shel Chavero. So since there's 100 of them, you have to say Shales Tamed Larav. Shalom Aleichem, Rebbe, or Shalom Aleichem. So the 100, you have a lot. You can't have 100 people giving edus in 3 seconds or 2 seconds of each other. He says everybody has to be of it, so that each one opens up a new window for the next one. So it's like a hemshech. It keeps on going. You have something like this for Zmane. This is the shita of the Aruch HaShulchan, that the shita. The for mincha, you have to say mincha before shkia, but as long as you start like a minute before shkia, your mamshech, your mincha before shkia keeps like that time open, keeps on going. You got your foot in the door, and it keeps on going. So once you continue that time, and you only have 3 seconds, but when that guy starts giving edus, now you've got all his edus, and then you can be tochdei dibur v'day. You have the same thing for Remain. There's a whole sugya here we're not going to get into. See the Toysa. So Toysa Samarava. Special conscious, Ubahakam Manisa and Reish Time Kadei Edim, Lechol Dover Mashma. Right, that's Lechol Dover Mashma. So therefore, every time, so basically, you're not going to have a Dukai Afle Indian Karv apostle. So the way that Toysis here is at least explained for Rashi is that everybody has to give the Edus at the same time. If they give Edus at a different time, then this whole Karv apostle, we don't have a problem with it. The kasha taha mashma besomoch the leinian din to Karov apostle eina tului beha'ada b'tochdei dibur ela berias maisa gamra edus. So it does that later, which we'll see there in the Gemara, that it's when we saw a bit with Rabbi that you have the Shasriya and the Shas Haggadah, that the Edus really starts at the Shasriya, and did they see it as Edom or not? So that's nothing to do with the time. You can already be a Karv apostle at the time when you saw the Edus. And that's nothing to do. We're not asking the Gemara. We're going to see. The Gemara doesn't start asking all these questions. Are you going to give Edus at the same time? It's just the time of seeing it. Did you want to be an Ed or not? Even though they do acher talk the dibur, because he says that horog yatzil. So I guess we'll just have a quick look at the Gemara. So Rabbi Kiva Oimer Ba Shlishi Mashnaim. So Amar le Rav Papa la Abai Elamiata horog yatzil. So since you have the cat and everybody together, therefore they should all save. If everyone's going to save each other, so therefore the murder victim should be the horug, the guy who was saved. He should save the murderer, because he's a korov to himself, and therefore since he saw the murder, So therefore, now you see here we're saying that he should, even though he didn't go to the horog yatzil, kushahorgo me'achurav, when he killed him from behind. Therefore, the guy who got murdered, he never saw the Maisa because he was killed from behind. So you see there, he's never going to go to Beis Din. So therefore, he's not going to give edus for Tukdei Dibur. Therefore, it's the time of the re'iyah of the action. That's when you become the Eid Karov apostle. So it seems to be clear here. Again, is Rashi saying that? But Tosis is saying that can't be. So the Nirba, the guy who was Nirba, should be Yatzil Kashir Me'achurav. I'm not sure exactly what's happening there. I guess you have the Nirba would be the female who is Aser Erva, or let's say the woman who's married and the guy comes so that he gets killed. So therefore she'll say that it happened, but she's a Karov to herself, so he should save the rapist because Sharavu Mercher came from behind. Horug Roiva. Now we're switching to the guy, the murderer and the rapist. He should save because he saw it and he's Karov. Ishtek kiyata lekamei derava amar la yukum davar b'kaimel davar hakosav medaber. So yakum davar. It says, if you look at the pasuk, it says Eidim. Al pishnei Eidim, al pishlosha Eidim yakum davar. So it says Eidim, shlosha Eidim yakum davar. Therefore, it's the Eidim that is doing the davar. So not the Baal, not the Baal hadavar. So not the Harag or the Nereg, not the murderer or the person who was killed. They won't be yakum hadavar. It's just the Eidim or yakum hadavar, and only they can be karver pasul. That's basically the sugi there, but we see that they're not going to come into Beis Din, and they're not going to give their B'Tukdei Dibur to come our horog yatzil, because the horog is not going to go to Beis Din and give his edus. So therefore, that's not pshat. It starts with the kachnira to lokai raka din edim zomimim to come our achizamim kulum. So this whole thing of Tukdei Dibur that Rava says, Tosis says that it is only in the din of Edom Zomim, and everyone else, you're the whole din of Karov apostle doesn't possible you if you don't give the edus Tukdei Dibur. So aval le'inyan nimsa echad Karov apostle afim nimsa mihani she'edu la'achar Kedei Dibur edus betela. So even if you find somebody who's Karov apostle in these edus that's not the Edom Zomim, are you going to makam the edus or not? So therefore they will bottle all the kadavim tema maishana. So what's the difference? Why by Edom Zomimim do we have one case and by the edus it's not? Yishlam or shana v'shana. It's very different. The davka that gabe nimsa echot mehen karvu pasul chashiv kachad edus kashe'edu la'achar Kedei Dibur. So when you have karvu pasul, it's still seen as one edus even though it's after Kedei Dibur. Mishom shehem oimrim emes. Since they're talking emes, so Tosis is going to basically build a picture like this. Now when you're talking emes, you all saw the same thing. Since you all saw the same thing, there's a chibur to your edus. But with Edom Zomimim, you're making it up. Since you're making it up, so then you never saw anything. Therefore, there's no chibur in your edus. You're making up stuff, and he's making up stuff. So therefore, the only way that you can mechaber yourself is there is no shas riyah. There's only a shas Beis Din. So therefore, by everyone else, there's a shas riyah, and you have this chibur by the shas riyah, and then when you come to Beis Din, you say it over. So therefore, you also can. Then came Edison chatchil maria. So the Edison begins when they all saw this thing that's true. So again, this is again we have the two parts. The Re'iyah of the Edim, it starts and you already have this chibur of the Edim of the Shasriya. If they come and they bring the Edim aval Edim Zom She'edim Rimre Emes Imkain Lo Ba'edosan Ela Kashe'edu B'Bas Bebeis Din V'Kevin Shelo Heidu B'Bas Achas Rak La'achar Kedei Dibur Lo Chashivim Kachedi Uschchen Yerel Mashiach is one of the these rabbis who are in the Tosis. So since by the Edom Zomimim they didn't actually see the Emes, there is no Shas Re'iyah, there's only Shas Haggadah. Therefore for the Shas Haggadah you have to have the Tukdei Dibur for the Edom Zomimim. Now back into the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yossi Ma'Divraimrim Ma'isa Shneachim Heichi Amrinin Lahu. What do we ask them? Now this is a strange question because you see Rebbe you've already said, so we're in Rebbe Ma'isa Shneachim. How do we know if they are, one cat or not? So Rebbe's already said that Bizman Shahosra Bahen, that they have to give Hasra. But since Rebbe is holding Hasra is only shaykh by Dine Nefashos, You don't have hasra. If you're going to be Edi moment, you don't have hasra. You see A give $100 to B as a loan. There's no hasra there. So therefore, how can it? So therefore, what do we do if it's not Edi nefashos? Amarava hachi amar lohu lemichse itzuzu. Did you come to see or leesude isahu? Now the pashas will be that they come to the they see someone murdering someone, or they see something happening, someone hitting somebody, or they see somebody loaning money. Did you come there to be an aid, or you come to see what's going on? So if they say no, we're going to give aid, so they have kavana to be an aid. We just came to see, therefore there's no kavana to be an aid. Therefore it doesn't apply. The whole thing doesn't apply. Here Rashi now again we have two zmanim here. They have to have kavana. There has to be some type of kavana. We have the shas re'iyah of the time it happened, to shas re'iyah, and the shas haggadah, the time when they come to Beis Din. So either you need them both, you need one, whatever. You either need one of the two, or you need both of them. Hachi amri lahu Karov pasul. We say to them, when we check them out, im metchila le'edus niskavenu. If at the beginning they had edus for kavana. Now, I don't really know what Rashi is saying here. We'll see this later, but you could read it that if at the beginning you had kavana, did you have kavana at the beginning, at the time of Re'iyah? You had kavana to be an aid. So if Rashi's learning the Gemara here, that once at the shas maisa, if you have kavana the shas maisa to be an aid, so then if you're cover pasul, you cover pasul, and that's all you need. That's again is one way to learn Rashi. You can say you can argue on this pshat, but this is one way to learn Rashi. You only need mitchila. Did you have kavanah to be an aid? Once you had kavanah to be an aid, now you're a carver pasul. Even if you don't go to Beis Din later, you're a carver pasul based on that one thing. You only need one. You only need to come to Beis Din. You don't need to act. So you only need b'shas ma'aseh when you see it. I want to be an aid, kavanah to be an aid. You don't actually have to go to Beis Din in order to be an aid. So therefore, if you're a carver pasul, the shas ma'aseh, and you have kavanah to be an aid, there you slug everything up. Itmar. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Halacha Rabbi Yossi. So, that's Rav Yehuda. So Rav Yehuda said, "Shmuel Halacha Rabbi Yossi." Rav Nachman Amar Halacha Rabbi. So Rav Nachman, we got the halacha here is like Rabbi, but Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Halacha like Rabbi Yossi. Now, don't forget, Rabbi Yossi is only talking about a case of dina nefashos. Dina nefashos. Now, Toysvis goes a bit, he doesn't like this. Shmuel Amar Halacha Rabbi Yossi. V'kasha. Heich metzini adina v'raglenu k'shenoisin get. Toysvis asks, the long kasha, how can we ever give a get? Now again, why is Toysvis zooming in on get here? If you see, I can find the Rosh. Itmar Yehuda Amar Shmuel Halacha Rabbi Yossi Rav Nachman Amar Halacha Karebi. To come along Halacha Rav Nachman B'Dinei. That's why we go like Rav Nachman, because Dinei Kedisa B'Kesubas. V'imteim L'Shmuel to pasuk Rabbi Yossi v'karvu poslim poislim b'rias ba'alma. So now we just see it alone. Afilu lo kavana la'ed. Even without the kavana to give edus, heich timsu kidushin v'gitin kasherin. So here the Rosh says kidushin and gitin, whereas Tosfos just says get. So it's a bit of a strange thing, and I would think that it's more mukhrach that you're going to have karuvim at the kidushin than at the gitin. I mean, you're going to invite, unfortunately you have to invite your mother-in-law to your wedding, and she's a karov to your wife, and all your other, you have your friends and family coming to this thing, but who the hell are you inviting to your get? You're inviting you're not inviting mother-in-law to the get process. So you're more likely not to have karuvim at your get, and kedushin's a much bigger kasha. But Toysvis get. I saw a parish was saying, this is why Toysvis is doing. I didn't like his answer. I can't remember what it was, and I can't find it now. But there are ma'ayin in this Indian. But I mean, the idea is the same. Get kedushin, whatever. Sheyesh ba'amud karuvim
Okay, you can argue on that. No. You just go. I mean, today you just go to Beis Din. Yeah, you do whatever Beis Din tells you, and I don't know if anyone else is there. I mean, you need Eidim, but you're not going to have your family there. The Hayalon and Loimer, the Eidus Makshirim bottle. So the Eidim that are there, since you've got Karovim there, the kosher earners are bottle. Now, I'll say at this stage, it's nothing to do with Rabbi Yossi, because Rabbi Yossi is only dealing with the Eidim Afoshes. This is the Eidim Afoshes. So Tosis says, "V'hai domi et din nefoshes." The sharin and eishes ish, because you're saying that this is the same as din nefoshes, because we're allowing her to be an eishes ish. So basically, if she gets a get, she can now have relations with somebody and not kill them. That anyone who has relations with her after this is not chayav misa. So this is the din nefoshes. This is Tosis sheish ba misas based in the time to perish la'ayil gavei edus nefoshes shayach nami beget. Now what Tosis is doing here is that Tosis said that's only din nefoshes because when you have two Eidim and one of them is Mavatal, because Rabbi Yossi says we're going to for Mammon we're going to Makayim B'Shar. So maybe this is like Mammon, we're going to Makayim B'Shar Eidim. So he says no, because by Gittin, if we have two Eidim on Gittin and one of them is pasul, so therefore we have no aid. One aid in Gittin is no good, just like one aid on and nefashis is no good. So when it comes to one aid in Chayv Shavuot, it's not shachs by Gittin, so therefore we're not going to be Makayim B'Shar. So for by Rabbi Yossi, Kasha Gittin. Now Rosh says also kidushin. Tosis doesn't say that. V'gam le Rabbi nami Kasha. Shepamim yisaken echad min hakaroivim laid. So by Rabbi Yossi just seeing it is a problem. We don't paskin like Rabbi Yossi, so we don't have such an issue there. But by Rabbi, once you have kavana, maybe one of the people at the kidushin is going to have kavana to be an aid, and therefore the whole kidushin is finished. Lechein nira lari the gam le Rabbi Yossi lo amru de'edus and betela ele davka ba'oisen. Now we're going to have here, so we have davka what? Ba'oisen shema'idin b'fnei basin. So you need to give edus and basin. That's one. You have to actually go to basin. Aval b'shvil riel lechuda lo, but it's not enough. So even in Rabbi Yossi, you actually have to go to basin. So Tosis is saying about Rabbi Yossi, seeing it's not enough. You have to actually go to basin. When you go to basin, then your seeing made you an aid. But if you don't go to basin, therefore you're not an aid.
V'im tema v'im kain mai per horog yatzil. So why are we asking then horog yatzil? For sure the horog isn't going to go to basin, as Tosis proved the poor. Above, v'ha anan hoylech la'aid. Ha'eno hoylech la'aid. Bebasin, because he's dead. The oimer read, v'adai mitchila hayasover shas l'Rebbe Yossi kinami einen poin la'aid. For sure Rebbe Yossi. So the Gemara had a havamina when we were asking these questions. Bebasin edis and betela. Just by seeing. Umishani b'keimu adavar. So once we say b'maikim adavar, hakos medaber kleimer kashabayim l'kam adavar. So Tosis kind of adds this word. It's not the Eidim. So the Eidim is kind of davar, and not anyone who sees it, but someone who comes to be an aid. But based in Amar Rebbe Yossi nimse echem en cover pasul days and betela. V'im timer im kain my parach la'ayil my yesesh shnei achim. So what's this whole thing? If shnei achim, they have to go to based in. V'halo ein shum chashash im lo yavu la'aid bebeistin kaparishti. So two Eidim, what ma yeseh? So two brothers saw the guy killing. So don't go to beistin and you're good. V'yesh loimer mishom the pa'amim shlo yada zeh bezeh. They don't know, either they don't know that they're relative or they don't know that the other guy's giving edus. V'yayid ha'echod afo pisha kavored achiv. So that they both go. So it's really better because this is in the Mishnah. What are you going to do for two achim who went to Beis and didn't know his brother already gave edus? It's a bit of a stretch there, but that's how he's learning. But Beis and va'afilu ira la'acher kadei dibor. He was after Kakadei Dibor, so he gives the same answer we had before. Minkomokum Edis and Betela Mishom. Edis and Betela means that they join to Mabatal the Edus. Mishom, hold on. Mishom the Kamina and Shalosha Shlashnaim, because we have a hekesh from 2 to 3. Nimsa Karov Apostle Bezeh Achrzeh Afalpi Delein Hazama being in Tokadei Dibor. So like we had before, Tosis is saying that Tokadei Dibor is only for to make one cat out of Edom Zomamim, but to make one cat out of Karov Apostle, you don't need Tokadei Dibor, and therefore the two brothers. You see, Tosis has to say this by the two brothers because if it's Tokadei Dibor, he's going to see his other brother giving the edus. So he says, no, it's spread out. He didn't know. But we don't need the Sukkot Dibur because that's only for Edim Zomim, and you can still have one cat, even as a Karov pasul. Now, the Ritva gives Pshat in Rashi. So, the Mechzi Yitzin and Lasadi Yitzin and Perish Rashi. La Sude Esian, B'Shas Maisa. So, he gives Eidos, you came to give Eidos the Shas Maisa, V'ki Amru La Sude, once we have Kavana to give, we have Kavana to be Eidim at the Shas Riyah. Havilu Eidim Machmas Oitim Kavana. Just the Kavana, the Shas Riyah. So Ritva speaking out, we were saying before in the Rashi, Bilvad. So that Kavana Bilvad will make you Eidim. The Afal Pishalo Baula Basin Laid, even though you never came to Basin. So it says the Rashbam and Perish Yesh Neichalim. Gavi Hahi Shnaim Shenechnasu LeBachar Sachoila. So let's have a look at this Rashbam. Here, Dama Rav Yehuda, Shalosha Shenechnasu LeBachar Sachoila. It doesn't really matter what this Gemara is about. Rotsu Koisvim, Rotsu Oisin Din. So 3 come in. So this is the Rashbam here. Shkim Shenechnasu LeBachar Sachoila, Rotsu Koisvim. So near Rabbeinu, the Davka Neket Shenechnasu LeBachar. So that they come in to see the Chodesh. So the Chodesh is going to die, and they're going to become like this. They're going to become the Eidim and the Dayanim for the will. So he says, Davka, they came in to be Boker. Helkach, Rotzu, Yaedu. So therefore, since they came in, they had no kavanah to be Eidim. Therefore, when they want to be an Eid, Rotzu, Yehi Dayanim. Right? Then they have the choice to be a Eid, or they have the choice to be a Dayan. Aval im nachasu le'Eid, shezimnum l'sham, because they were brought in there, v'havum l'shmoa kedei l'ha'Eid, but they were going to hear the last will and testimony to give Eidus, harehem Eidim. Ve'ein Eid nase Dayan. So you see here that already, just im nichnasu le'ha'Eid, they came in just to give Eidus, then they become an Eid, harehem Eidim. And now they can't become a Dayan. So just entering to be an Eid is enough, says Rashbam, in order to become an Eid. Now once you're an Eid, like it's not maybe you'll be an Eid, you are an Eid, and that Eid cannot become a Dayan. So he's saying that's Rashi, he's saying that's the Davka Nechnasu Levakar, Nechnasu Le'ed, Avi Le'ed, Nechnasu Vintin, She'en Enes, and Asu Shekin Lurus Eltas, Le'ed, Afopi Shalo'ed. So therefore he's got the Rashbam, he's got Rashi saying the same thing. Metulihu ke'ilu heidu. V'kol shekain imatu mi'ikara lemechzi. Now he said v'kol shekain, if originally you just wanted to look, and then you came to base din leha'ed v'ha'edu, and then you came later to give edu. So now you have basically either or. Again, with the two key times, Shas Haggadah and the Shas Re'iyah. So Ritva says here either or. Either Shas Re'iyah or Shas Haggadah will make you an aid in order to make you the Karov pasul. Zu Shitas Rashi v'nechto harashbam. So all this, the Ritva is saying that's Rashi and the Rashbam, and however well you think you can learn a Rashi, even though you can argue on some of the points here, this is Ritva telling you Pshat and Rashi, so that's good enough for me. So Rashi and Rashbam are either or, right? Because also, of course, you came im atu, you just came to see, you just originally came to see v'hashta atu lebeistin, and then you give Edus. So therefore, it's an either or. That's Shitas Rashi, that's Shitas Rashbam. Again, you can argue on it, but that's Shitas Rashi and Rashbam. Aval hakshu alav demas vara he's loimer ki lefilish maskem b'shas riyah lios aid yekari aid shelo lios din dayan lefosulas kashem b'kavod also. That's like what type of. So Ritva is going to argue on this. He's what type of svara is this? This is a crazy svara that just because you had some kavana, you pasul, the whole thing is over. You see somebody A killing B, and you're like, oh, I better watch this because I don't want A to get away with it. And then it turns out your Karov saw it from the other side, and now A gets away with it because you had kavana to. I mean, what kind of svara is this? According to Ritva, now we have this the introduction of this idea. You have to be Messiah Adam. You have to say at Adam, B'shas Kidushin, you have to say, you are my Adam. According to this, you would need to Messiah Adam. You're going to be Minyach Adam. You are my Adam, and no one else is my Adam. She'im lo kain yesh sham shum korov. If there's any korov at your kedushin, ulai niskavnu lahiyot eid uposelas kulam.
So now, therefore, if everybody, you could say, here he's saying it's only going to be possible if somebody who sees, your Karov who sees it has kavanah to be an aid. Oh, I'm going to be an aid for this kidushin. So if he has that thought, so then he's going to pasul everything because he's a Karov. So if he doesn't have that thought, it's fine. He can have the Karov at the kidushin and at the get. Again, by Rebbe Yossi, the Re'iyah alone, without Toshis' Chiddush, the Re'iyah alone will make him part of the Eretz Apostle like Rebbe Yossi. So therefore we don't need. But by Rebbe, you have to have kavanah to be an aid. According to Rashi, so therefore you have to have the siyum edim. So therefore, by Ritva, we're saying that this miyuchad edim is for Shitas Rashi. The Havale mekadosh be'edim puisalim or mekadosh be'lo edim she'en kidushin klum. So if the Karov apostle mitzdarefs, either they're there in the apostle or the mavatal the whole thing, you have no edim. The anan behedi ekaimelan. Now this is in kedushin the kedushin lo tzarech loimer atem ed. By Kiddushin, you don't have to say this. Says the Ritva, you don't need to say this, B'chlal. So he says, we kaimel on this in, this is Kiddushin Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. Itmar Rav Amar Shaliach Nasa Eid. So Rav says, so Shaliachs make an aid. The Bei Rebbe, Shalia Amri ain't Shaliach Nasa Eid. So the Bei Rebbe says that the shliach can't make an aid. My time at the Bei Rebbe Shila is it that the shliach can't be an aid? Ilema mishum de lo amar lehave li aid. So why can't this shliach be an aid for the kedushin? Is it because you didn't say to your shliach, be an aid for my kedushin? So here the Gemara just says, Elameata kiddush isha b'fnei shnayim v'lo amar lehem atem edi hachinamit lo have kedushin. So here, the Gemara, this is basically what the Gemara is poskening, that we don't need to say to your Eidim that you have to be Eidim. So you Mekadosh people before too, when you didn't say you're my Eidim, does that mean you don't need, it's not Kedushin? Hooray, Ra'u, they saw it. So Rashi's dealing with a case in Sanhedrin, that where it says you do have to say it. Upeshita to have a kedushin. So mashma de lo matrichi loimer atemedi kiim behoida. So this is Tosis and Rashi dealing with the same issue here in Sanhedrin, where it says that you do have to say ad. That's because of hoida. It says why is different, but so here if you don't say so. The Gemara says you have two people. You don't say that you're my aid, so therefore you don't have to say you're my aid. So therefore the Ritva is saying here that behediya kaimelan. This is how we poskin. You don't need to say ad. So therefore, according to Rashi, we have to velo shanilan ben mekadosh b'yechidim or barabim, and we don't make a difference between mekadosh b'yechidim or barabim b'fnei avia or karovim, where you have the difference in the karov. Now you can't make a deal here in the Gemara. Takas says kidushisha b'fnei shnayim. What does it say? Kidushisha b'fnei shnayim. Such shnayim, and not the Ritva says here that there's lo shanilan. There's no difference between we have this karov. So this is basically where you can argue if you take a different. If you want to argue on the Ritva on this point, this is where you'll argue on him that there is a difference between these. Afal pi shenogu b'k'tzas makomis l'sayim edim b'kedushin lo mishur sadin talmud oisin ela lefi. So why are they? So there are some places. Ritva is saying there are some places that do sign edim for kedushin, and it's not mishur sadin a Talmud. We're not doing it because of the Talmud. There's some inyan in the Gemara which we should be machmer like. Ela lefi shechoshu lefi Rashi, rechoishes for shitas Rashi, and that's why there's a din of miyuchad edim here according to the Ritva, because we're choishes for shitas Rashi, and it's nothing to do with the Talmud. There's a shitas Rashi, and therefore we're choishes for that. So the Ritva is arguing on this. Lechein ha'nachon v'girma fursh she'ena shala zos ela b'shas bayatim lebesin laha'ed. It's only when they come to basins that you don't have to. The Ritva argues on the whole thing. So this is Shach. In Choshen Mishpat it talks about the Eidim, so this is how it's getting into Choshen Mishpat. I'm not talking about a Kidushin. V'Rashi v'Rashbam. Again, the Shach is also going to give the same Pshat. Rashi Makos Vav Hachi Bavakama. The
kivan laha'ed lochud sagi afilu lo ha'idu acher kach. That just your kavana to give edus, that's enough for you to be part of this Karov apostle. To halo edcher klal b'matnisa no b'shas to be in shidu acher kach. So according to the shach, then we're not mentioning at all. You need to give the, and again, Toysus kind of introduced these kidushin. You have to give the edus afterwards. V'adarabba pashadam and nisa masha the bein leRebbi ubein leRebbi Yossi bekinu laha'ed the kavana to give edus lechud. That's how they become the tziruf for their Adam. Yeah, and then he says this is what Toysus kept out. Hachimash manami mi de parach b'shas harogatzil. So Toysus kept, my umashkos is the vasiot and maskana meshani bekimu davar kozam medavar nechad lo mechuver the mashman the lo meshani ela bekim bekamei davar kozam medavar velo beoisi hadavar. Like Rashi, aval lo hadar bei mimaydis farland. So he disagrees with this. He disagrees with the Toys. He's going like Rashi here in the Shach. V'le'inyan ma shehokshu atoysus v'rosh v'siyatem heich timsa gitim v'kedushin kasherim shenasu b'fumi be'edim karuvim. So you do the kedushin and the gitin in public with people in the karuvim are there. Yesh loimer de ledidane edna peshita de kosher. So today is for sure it's kosher. Daha mizaman edim kasherim miyochadim lekach. So here the Shach is saying that obviously it's good for us because we are miyochad edim. Says the Shach. That's what you do. You mishochad edim. Im kein b'shita da kruvim enim kavonim laha'ed. So therefore that they're not included. Once you have miyochad edim, so then no one else. They say if you are my edim, so then no one else is your aid, so therefore, why would you have kavana to give aidus if you're not an aid? So that filu yikavenu la aid aina poisel. Even if they have kavana, they don't poisel. Why? The cave into mazin and made in makak. Since we've already we've organized aidim for this. Hooray anu muitziim kol ha'acherim meklal aidus. We have taken them all out of the klal aidus. So we've said we want you to be an aid and no one else. And even if you have kavana to be an aid, so then you can't be an aid against our wishes. This is far in the Rosh, which we'll see. But I don't know. What is that a good svara? Does that make sense? Once I say you two are my aid, and we seem to be saying that anyone who has kavana to be an aid, he's an aid. And they were saying, no. And when I say the A and B are my aidim, now if you want to be an aid, you can't be an aid against my will. I don't know. Again, if I'm a murderer and I say A and B are my aidim, then you can't be an aid against my wishes. I don't know. Is that true? So we are kind of missing a svara as to why this works. So that also Perut says this. Tzarich lever aidim begidim v'kedushin dim lokein. Regilus hu shisham oimdim karuvim, and then the edus in his betela. So again, the Shach is holding if you do not miyuchad edim, there is no kedushin or gitin. V'kein perishu rebisenu v'kein nacho ga'olam. Ad kan l'shoina. He's bringing the red. V'ulai gam bisman shas no kokain. Maybe at the time of Shas they also were miyuchad edim. Or shahayu noihaygim shelo yas korva posel b'shas gitin or kedushin. But they would be noiheg. The Shas Kedushin and Gittin, there would be no Karuvim there. Now that seemed to be quite the Kiddush there, the Shach to say, the time of Chazal, that the Karuvim were not invited to the weddings. But seemingly, that's what he's saying to get out of this issue, because the Shach is holding that this is a big issue. So the Ketzois, because he's going on a different Shach, but I don't know with this reference. They both, Aval, this is the Ketzois bringing the Rosh. Aval im shneihem kavonu or shneihem lo kavonu lahayed havile nimsa echem mehem karv pasul veisim besela v'chein roi v'nachun lachol nisara kedushin lizarez. This is the Ketzois talking that it's fitting because of the Shach, the chumr of the Shach. All mitzvah kedushin should be mazarez liyachid edim b'shas kedushin. Shehaya elo edim amiyachidim מכוון להעיד. דין לא כן, אבל נמצא אחד עם קרוב pasul, כיוון במעמד שמו, נתן ברוב פסולים עם כשרים, איפה גב דזה ודאי שפוסלים אין מכוון להעיד, even though the pasulim don't have kavanah ta'ed, I don't know why that's vadai. Kol sha'kasherim gam ken ein mechavanim havele limsa echem on cover pasul. So he's bringing the shach, who says basically you have to that again. This is the Iker Din. The Ketzoy is saying that the mitzvah kidushin should be yachid the edim b'shas kidushin. Then he brings the ritva and kind of says that Iker Din you don't need it. Then he says at the end here, Adina nohegum yachadim edim b'shas kedushin v'roi lizahir b'zeh. But that today we are noiheg to do this yichud edim b'shas kedushin, and it's fitting to be careful about this. So that the Ketzois himself holds a Meikar Din, you don't need this, but because of the Chumrah the Shach, which is again going off Rashi, the Chashasha Rashi, so therefore that's what we should do, and that's the proper thing to do. So we saw a bit of this Rosh before, that he says it's the same kasha of Toisus, except he says Kedushin as well. The Gam Aliba the Rebbe im Kavona La'ed Helkach. So again, we also need to have, according to Rebbe, which is the halacha, if you have kavana to give edus, therefore near leferish lefia maskana to amarava, but mekemi davar, there were cost of ein kruvim postim mevatlim edus elim came bo v'haedu b'beistin imacherin. So again, he's focused on the teretz like toises. They're not edus elu that you come to lekaim davar b'fnei beistin. So when this is a good, I mean here he's explaining why, because the shach says that there's no the shas never says that you need to come to Beis Din. So he's saying it does because the pasuk of Makam Davar is that only when you come to Makam Davar is that when you come to Beis Din, the Edom come to Beis Din, is that called Makam Davar? That's the pasuk. So when they come to Beis Din, they're coming because you're calling, you say, anybody who knows anything about this Maisa, come to Beis Din. So everybody comes to Beis Din. We ask them and say, did you come b'shas Maisa or not? So that's again, it's basically going on the way of Taisus. Now here the Rosh, I think this is one of the kiddush of the Rosh. We hear Vira, first the Rosh, im hazimin hamalva edim. Kesherim v'yamdu v'amdu shema b'karuvim or pasulim. So the malva has kosher edim, but also standing there looking are karuvim pasulim. Even if the pasulim the karuvim have kavana le'edu bo v'edu, but based in. So the karuvim. So you lend money to somebody, and you have kosher edim, and also there are pasul edim, and they have kavanah, even if they have kavanah to give edus and basin, lo nisblata edus of kasherim. You didn't mevatel the edus of kasherim. The kavan sheyachedus edov lav kol minayhu lehefsid lezeh. He's not able to be mafsid him mamono. Daha dekamor hashas to shalinin lahu ilim mechesiyatu ilim mechsuda atu hainu davar hanasa b'fnei roiv im below hazmana edim. So you're only asking them if he didn't do hazmana edim. So the Rosh here, this idea, he kind of comes. The Rosh is, I don't know, Makot, the idea of Messiah Edim. However, he only says it by Dinah Malva, by Dinah Mammon. He doesn't need Zimun of the Edim. His teretz. He asked the question, what are we going to do about Kedushin and Gittin? And he says we need two things. We need Shas Maisa, you have Kavanah to be an aid. And Shas Beis Din, you have Kavanah to be an aid, and you come to do Haggadah. So without those two things, so then you don't have an issue. So you don't need to have the zimun of the Edim like Rashi does. So therefore here he brings the zimun of the Edim by Malva, because there you can lose your money if there's Edim and they want to have Kavanah to give Edim. So therefore it's only by Malva that the Rosh says that you have this Hazamas Edim. Now the Avnei Meluim here, who is the Ketzois, Kevin de Gitzim a Kidushin Sarach Edim Leguf Davar. Alright, so we have a difference in the Edim of, again, by Malva, the Malva are Edi Re'iyah, that they're only proving that it happened, and that if you loan somebody money without Edim, the loan still happened, but you don't have a proof that it happened. But by Gittin and Kedushin, they're Edi Kiyume, that if you don't have Adam, it never happened. There is no kidushin without Adam. There is no gittin without Adam. Therefore, you give a get to a woman without Adam, or you give kidushin to a woman without Adam. There is no kidushin or Adam. That they are Makayim the Dover. Therefore, the man and the woman needs to have some type of kavana. You need to have Adam there. If you actually were miyuched Adam, the kasherim kavana, therefore your kavana was kasherim. Umahani v'achinami yafila b'stama kol shemakavan le'edam amrilim vada. So, since if you're going to be miyached Adam, you're miyached kasherim. So to b'stama, since you have kavana, you need to have kavana on Adam, because if you don't have Adam on your kidushin, you don't have kidushin. So therefore, when you're getting mekadesh, you want Adam. Therefore, b'stama, your kavana is only on the kasherim. So therefore, this whole din doesn't apply, says the Avnei Malum. But even b'stam, even without miyuched Adam, is like, because you have kavana. You have das on Adam, and the kavanah is only the Adam kasherim, not on the Adam pasulim. Ila b'dina nefashos the leke yichud le'ede or b'dina mamonos the lo ivrei sahadi. So here's a bit of again if you are miyuched Adam, seemingly it should be okay. But even if you're not, you have the rosh, and now even the Avnei Malum is that there's like a stam das that you are. Miyuchad the Adam that are kosher, and you have no your das is on Adam because you need Adam, and your das is on kosher because the pasulim don't help. It says here, so kol hechi the boy kavana la Adam, come up get him a kidushin. Da'ish va'isha tzrichin shnehem, because they need them both. Kavana shiyu ha kidushin be'Adam v'hamektish below Adam lo have a kidushin klal. V'kol shemakaven la Adam daiso ala kasherim. So his das is on the kasherim. And this is a heter if he didn't miyuchad the Adam daiso ala kasherim. V'sulam afesalai de karum v'sulam v'zeh barer. Amnam b'katzois katavnu deroi v'nachal lekol masari kedushin li'achid Adam kasherim b'shas kedushin shle'chas v'chalila shum gum b'sherish kedushin Yisrael ein sham. So he's saying it's a chumrah. You don't need it. It's a chumrah so that no one will be mafakvek on the kedushin. Just quickly in the Toomin, more to show davka milta b'moment. So in the Rosh, it's davka milta b'moment, where you have the hazama works, the hurak levarer sheker, because you're trying to bring out the sheker or not. Imkain hu miyached that the verm ba'atz mosema. So he is saying these guys are my aidim because these are the ones that are telling the truth. So you can't just have anyone come in to base in, because I'm saying these are the ones that are telling the truth. Ein kan bittel. The efshur metoris tanai v'ne'emonis, that you're like making a tanai that these aidim are true. Aval b'milta d'yisura lo mahani hazmana. But b'milta d'yisura, which would be kedushin. There's no, you can't have hazmanas aidim, which I was saying by the murder. Ubeprat davar sheba erva. The boy edus. So davar sheba erva kedushin and erva. And after shneihem moedim v'gezer sekosov. Even though they both are moedim, gezer sekosov in kain ma moel zimun leheksher. So therefore, how does it help? Yeah, under the chuppah you have you're my edim and you mizamin edim kasher. How does it help? Madam vutal day edus karuvim. How can you mevatel them? V'shaper heksher harosh came beget v'kedushin. So basically he's saying that the Rosh holds with this whole Hazmana thing. Yes, he's asking about getting Kedushin, and he doesn't give the answer of Hazmana. Why does the Rosh not give the answer of Hazmana? Because Hazmana doesn't do anything. Otherwise, in Isra V'Heter, otherwise he would have given that as his answer, since he didn't, because it doesn't work. It's Isra V'Heter. It's only by Mammon that the Hazmana works, and therefore, even so again the Ketzois is saying be machmir and do it. Tumen says it doesn't do anything. Even if you do it, doesn't do anything. You have to rely on the other holds. But it's the Rosh who holds it doesn't do anything. Again, the Shach holds it does do anything. But I know it's a difficult svara. I don't fully understand the svara as to how does the zimun of the Edom, how does that do anything? And again, by Isser V'Heter, which the Tumim is putting this in, it makes more sense that the zimun doesn't do anything. And if I'm doing something Osir, I mean, if I'm eating, you're eating treif, and some guy wants to give you makos, and then you just mizam another edim. How does it work that you get rid of them by the hazama by mama? And again, he's giving the idea that it's like it could be a tonight moment works. It could be a mavar the emes. He's saying these guys are telling the truth, and these guys aren't. But it's So I mean, l'chayra, I don't know, the halacha is zimun, is do zimun, but it doesn't do anything. So you do zimun for those who hold that it doesn't do anything, according to those that it doesn't do anything. So the Tzafnas Paneach is going on the Rambam again. It's the Rogachover. It's going on the Rambam in a day re'iyah of the moon. So Rabbi Sina Kasab B'mara and Nevo. So again, they all say that you just can't understand the Tzafnas Paneach is not understandable, and I can kind of understand the words here, but some of the things he says are a bit a mitzias of what it is. But anyway, let's have a look. So B'mar Nevuah. So he showed Moshe the moon. God showed Moshe the moon in a Nevuah. V'ayim b'mechilta v'rashi. V'amai b'rushami kan. V'hini be'emes kamanas Rashi kach d'gabe edus. B'kol mokem techav b'shah re'iyah nasim edim. So she says Rashi is that immediately shash re'iyah you made an ed. You've seen this before. V'achar kach, when they come to Beis Din, they say the edus. So and then achar kach, then it comes. We have two times. V'harachti b'zeh. Back the krisis with different Rabbeinu b'halachas shavuos edus nimsa ha'edim hem shnei peulas. So the edim have two peulas. Re'iyah shelahem v'haggadah b'beis din. So you have two times two things that the edim become edim, or they make themselves edim. The re'iyah and the haggadah. V'zehu hach maklokas to makos taf vav gabe Karov pasul ayin sham. Now I'm not exactly sure what Maklokas he's referring to. He's referring to Maklokas Rabbi Yossi. He's referring to Maklokas Toisus Rashi. I don't know what Maklokas he's on about. Pashtus Maklokas stuff is Rabbi Yossi, where there's Haggadah and it's the Re'iyah. V'yesh b'zeh nafkamina bein edi kanas le'edi nefashos. Ve'ein kan mokum laharech. Ach be'edus hachodesh. Hini be'emes a re'iyah hu rak re'iyah dimyunus daha be'emes ein roya selavana. Now I don't know what he's talking about here. That when you see that this re'iyah of the moon is only a dimyun, it's only a like an imagination or a something that's doima, something that's similar to the moon. The ein roya daha be'emes ein roya selavana. You don't see the moon. I don't understand what he's saying here. It could be so far away, you can't see anything on it. You just see a white thing in the sky that I don't know. But anyway, he's saying that you didn't really see it, so therefore your Haggadah b'beis din, it's getter mitzvah. When you're giving your Haggadah, the pasuk told you to give Haggadah and say you saw the moon. So your Haggadah is a mitzvah. V'lo mishum kiddush החודש. You're not doing the kiddush החודש. Why? Im kodshuhu below edim. So if you makadosh the month without edim, or you mekadosh edim and they represent zomimim, it's mekudash. The month is mekudash. Why is it mekudash without edim or with edim zomimim? Because the edim that come and give their Haggadah, they're not doing anything with their Haggadah. This isn't edus and based in. This Haggadah of edim is nothing. The ayin kan the mitzvah lekadesh. So therefore, why are they doing? They're doing the mitzvah al pi hariyah. So the Edom saw it and they gave Edus and Asim. But that's just a mitzvah, but they're not giving Haggadah's Edus. They're doing a mitzvah when they come and say, I saw the moon. So therefore, Karuvim and Kosher says, Rabbi Shimon by the Edus of the Chodesh. Why? Because it's not Edus. Why is it not Edus? Because I don't need you're not doing anything. You have a mitzvah to say, I saw the moon. But even if you know when saw the moon, and even if you have Edom Zomimim, it's a good. So it's not real Edus. So therefore, it's not real Edus. Karov Makosher. Nimsa lefizeh kol re'iyah v'haggadah she'ena oisa pa'ula gabe kiddush hachodesh hu kamo shelo ro'a klum. So any re'iyah and the haggadah that doesn't do a pa'ula, so that's not called a re'iyah. Didn't see anything v'lo hagid klum. So you have the re'iyah and you have the haggadah. And there's nothing, your Hariyah and your Haggadah is nothing because there's no Pa'ula there. V'zehu kevonos Yerushalmi, the Hariyas Ha'uva B'toisvus, I've had to call me she'en aroi l'hoira na'aseh ke'evan. Anybody who's not fitting for hoira is like an evan, so that the evan, because their edus didn't do anything.
Ratzalomer the ein begeder hadavar klal. They're not in the klal, so therefore you can have karoivim because they're just like an even. They're not given haggadah. They didn't see anything. They didn't do anything. V'ayin b'mad de pligi rebbeinu v'harayved b'halachas Sanhedrin b'halachas Hedus. Ayin sham. V'kein nirali gav a gitin v'kedushin. So now he's going to put it all in. Gitin kedushin lo shayach nimse echem ehem korv pasul edus and betela. So it's not shayach. Mishum the kedushin v'get to edem hem oisin ha-pa'ula. Because the edem here, they're doing the pa'ula. And they're not giving edus in the idea to say, is it true or not? That they are the pa'ula. They're doing the action of the kedushin. Because without the edem, there is no kedushin. Ubelo edem hu kamo shelo nase klal. Because without edem, there is no kedushin. V'chein edem pasulim. And similarly for edem pasulim, v'imkein have edem pasulim kamo shelo ru klal. V'have ke'even v'ad komashim. So, if there are no edem, then there's no kedushin. Right? If there's no edem, there's no kedushin. So they didn't do. So therefore, so too, if there's edem pasulim, there's no kedushin. Because if you get two edem pasulim, so there's no kedushin. So since there's no kedushin with those pasulim, they're nothing. They didn't see anything. They didn't do anything because there's no pa'ula. They're not doing anything. They give edus on what? I saw him giving good, but you're not an aid because you're a pasul. And if you saw them do kedushin, then there is no kedushin. So it's like an evan. So evan. It's like Tosis is saying that if you're not doing anything, you're like an evan. You didn't see anything. You didn't say anything. Therefore, the pasulim and the keruvim, they're like the evan because their edus is no good if they're the aid. So they said that we saw it, therefore there is no kedushin. So once they say that there is a kedushin, so therefore their edus is nothing. Therefore they didn't say anything. So that they're not doing anything. So therefore there's no edus. So since there's no edus, they don't do anything. Therefore they're not coming to aid, and therefore they're not doing anything in based in by giving their edus. So since they're not doing anything in based in by giving their edus, therefore they can be Karov, they can be pasul. It doesn't matter. They're not doing anything, and therefore it's still kidushin if you have Eden Tolmim. It's still kidushin if you have Eden Pasulim. It's still kidushin if you have Eden Karuvim. Therefore, it doesn't matter. Says the Tzafnat Panech, the Rogachover. Therefore, they're not shayach Karov pasul by Gittin and Kidushin, because it's like Hodesh, as we say here, that the Pasulim and the Karuvim, they cannot be Edi Kiyumi. And since we can only have Edi Kiyume, since they can't be Edi Kiyume, they are not Edim. And since they're not Edim, them saying anything doesn't make them a Karov pasul. They can't be Mitzdaref to the Edim because they're only Edi Kiyume and they can't be Edi Kiyume, therefore they're just like a stone.